This is when the company owners are going, gosh, based on how everybody was acting, we should have a really big bump in business today. Where is it? Are our computers really working? What's happening here? And it's no... the phone's out, electricity gone. What's happening? What is creating such a different reaction than what we experienced on Saturday afternoon at the convention? Now you know. And the only solution to date has been for these folks, bless their hearts, to re-engage in fantasy. So they come to the next meeting to get the vision, to get the dream back. It's not a dream. It's not a dream. Now, let me carry you through the last piece of this. We've created the vision, right? We've skipped the work. We want this, and we're living beyond. Everybody got that? Life shows up differently, and one of the measurements tells us that over 92% of them hate life. They hate their life. Because when there is a disconnect between the visual and the reality, it's extremely painful, especially when they're really divergent, okay? And they turn inward. Because when they went to the meeting, everybody else looked successful. They did not know that everybody just spent the last money on their credit card to buy the new outfit. They didn't know that. Everybody looks successful. Everybody's talking a great story. Everybody talks as if something they hope will happen 6 months from now happened last month. Just listen to the conversations. Yeah, you fake it until you make it. Except for they're now dealing with the pain inside their souls, and they turn inward. And they turn inward in 3 specific areas. 1, worth and worthiness. Let's write that one down. They question their very worth as a human being. Number 2, ability. They question their ability. Can I really do this? It's the third one that was a great discovery. 92% of them begin to question their own belief system. We've all heard, I feel like I'm living a nightmare and selling a dream. These are highly integrous people who cannot lie. And when we tell them to go present, good morning, the way that sometimes we want them to, they feel, right or wrong, they feel like they're telling a lie. I'm not experiencing that. And the longer they're in business without success, the more pronounced this becomes. Wasn't this an interesting discovery? They get so nervous that their posture, facial expressions show up when they're talking to someone. The neuroscientists discovered something about 14 years ago called a mirror neuron. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Everybody's got them. Let's say, is it Don, is that right? Don, you have mirror neurons. I walk in. Before you have a conscious thought, your mirror neurons have already read all of my facial expressions. I want to tell you how many there are. The math is 2 to the power of 200 minus 1. That's a lot of different variations on these 200 muscles, right? You can't consciously read them, but your mirror neurons can. They will pick up the posture of my body, and when I start to speak, they'll pick up the tonality and tenor of and timbre of my voice. They go back, not through the optic center, the thalamus, but right back to the amygdala, communicate to the body, he is safe or he is not safe. Chemicals, molecules, that's what Candace Pert called them, molecules are released into your body, the molecules of emotion, and you'll very literally have a feeling, and all of this has happened before you have a conscious thought. Fake it till you make it? How naive. How naive. People have said to me, Dave, it's almost like they know I'm going to ask them before I say anything. Well, of course they do. It's written all over you. Agenda, going to force you to my business. I want to sell you. I'm going to pretend like I care about you. I'm going to sell you because I need to sell 5 friends and them to sell 5 friends because I want to buy that tropical islands so I can get away from annoying people. This is what we're facing. Now, everybody got this? This sequence alone would be sufficient for us to really take a serious look at the way in which we present. It doesn't mean we don't present dreams, as we would say, as intentional creators. We would just talk about the work of creation and why it's critical to engage. We take a person who thinks this way, has the gift, and we move the thought process, the gift. We don't want to lose the gift, because the intentional creator, that's the core of the foundation of their gift. We move it over and we teach them 5 constructive ways of thinking. If I had time today, I would share the 5 with you, and you'd say, well, that's what I do. Of course that's what you do. But we've identified them, given them names, and ways to actually teach them. And when they start using mental rehearsal, which is as vivid as fantasy, or inspiration, or exploration, or problem solving, or planning and goal setting, guess what they start to experience? They start to get inspired ideas that ignite their passion, light up part of their brain they normally don't use, and they start working passion-driven. Nobody gets to skip the work. We'll all agree with that, right? There is no shortcut. Long-term, there can be flashes in the pan. We know that can happen, but long-term, there are no shortcuts to do the work of creation, correct? So we either do it or we're not going to do it. The question is, do we want to fantasize and then face that which we were trying to skip, and it becomes burdensome and boring and mundane and repetitious? Or do we want to use this gift constructively to ignite our passion, and our passion will drive our work, and we'll work without counting the cost or tracking the time? You get your option. That's the only option there is, one or the other. Which way would you like to do the work? Because you don't get to skip the work. Now, we have seen an interesting development in about the last 24 months with leaders in the profession. This is sensitive, but I felt very impressed last night this needed to be discussed. You ready? Don't raise your hands. I just want you to be honest with yourself. How's your income doing compared to last year? Did anybody think that last year was the bottom? Anybody had a little sting every once in a while? Because in most companies, the leaders are starting to get stung. Now, they built their organization passion-driven. They didn't even think about what it took. And they were here, and they built to here. And this is exciting. And all of a sudden, things almost out of their control have notched it back. And now they're back, some almost starting over. Almost starting over. And they're looking up at all the work that needs to be done. And some of them are having a hard time re-engaging at that level. Last time they did it passion-driven. This particular thought process wants them to see the work without the passion. So guess what the leaders need to learn how to do? Go back and focus on being constructive, igniting the passion, and then doing the work. If they just get engaged in work, they burn out quickly because they are at a level of exhaustion absent passion. You take the passion away and they'll sleep for a week, right? A month, yeah, thank you. You got the picture. This is a really tender measurement to see because we're starting to see the same pattern in the leaders where they're just hoping there's some way to fix it. And guess what they often do? They move to a different company. Now, I'm not suggesting that's good or bad. I have no judgment around that. I just know that the greener grass often doesn't last a long time. It can be a hit for a while. Might maybe get positioned better. Maybe that's a good thing. That could be a great thing. I've got a client that just did that. It turned out to be a wonderful thing for him. Excited for him. It's not always the case. Not always the case, but that's one thing we see. So there's the first one. Everybody got that one okay? Now I'm going to take you to the most interesting revelation. I want you to buckle up your seatbelt because this one can be just a little hard to get. And I'm going to do my very best to explain it. We were surprised to discover that 98%, sound familiar again? These numbers are so interesting. 98% have very high levels of empathy and intuition. At the same time, most, it's not categorical, but a large percentage are very reclusive. They've never been outgoing. Variety of reasons. Sometimes abusive situations in their childhood, sometimes bad relationships, sometimes just dysfunctional lives growing up. They've never really been outgoing. So they don't think they're empathetic and intuitive, although the measurements can't lie. And so we look at them and go, what's really happening here? And this was the discovery. When they finally decide to break outside their shell, and as a great leader, you've got them now out there talking, right? So they go to talk to someone. And this is the first encounter with a human being, perhaps, for the day. And all of a sudden, they feel uncomfortable because they feel like they're violating your space. Their intuition is absolutely accurate because the way in which they're doing it, they are. They are. And they start to feel really, one client said, icky. Had a great line. Icky. She said it was the kind of icky you can't wash off in a shower. So she's trying to talk to someone, but every time she does, she feels uncomfortable. And guess what leadership tells her that discomfort is? Fear. You're struggling from fear. We understand fear. Og Mandino wrote about fear. Og Mandino said, my procrastination, which has held me back, was born of fear. And I've learned this secret, mined from the depths of all courageous hearts. Cor means blood, so heart of hearts. If you ever get into the heart of a really courageous person, what you'll discover is that to conquer fear, you must act without hesitation. And when you do, the flutters in your heart will vanish. Now I know that only action reduces the lion of terror to an ant of equanimity. Equanimity meaning peace of mind. Isn't that wonderful? So that we know that when you've got fear and you jump in, the fear goes away. The reason why, we know. From a neurological standpoint, what's happening is all the noise in our head, the self-deprecating doubts and fears, and we have to shut it off to jump in. So guess who gets to show up? Me! In all my genius and brilliance, I get to show up. Matter of fact, when we procrastinate and do this, how often do we go, wow, that wasn't so hard. Wow, why did I wait so long? And then we go do it again, procrastinate, till we finally jump in, shut off the noise. Wow, that wasn't so hard. Wow. Well, that's what's happening. When we finally are going to talk to someone, if it's fear-based, the fear goes away because we finally show up. When someone is being strategic in their conversations, systems-driven in connection, where they're waiting for someone to stop breathing, stop to take a breath. Don't want to kill them. I think I meant to say that. Wait for a breath to jump in with product information. Let's kind of plant that seed. We're not really listening. Not really. We're just listening for an opening to pounce on them like a fox on a mouse. When we're teaching our people to throw up all over everybody with excitement, blah, blah, and it splashes back, that's called rejection. It tastes awful. Blah. When we're in that kind of a situation, that never goes away. That's how we found out that it was just their intuition. You cannot do this except for to anesthetize it. Here's the pattern. I'm reclusive, I step out, I feel uncomfortable, someone says it's fear, I buy into that. Why am I willing to buy into that? Because of the possibility of a lot of money. So I'm willing to override this intuitive feeling, believing it's fear, until about spring of last year. We watched this pattern. About April or May, some of you may have go back and take a look at your logs. After making it somehow through 2009, somehow through 10, we started to get into 11. I was surprised the resilience, the resources people were able to pull together, starting to sell everything in their house till there was nothing left. And they reached this point where they just decided to take a vacation from the profession. They didn't have money to go on a real vacation. They just stopped doing things that made them feel icky. And guess what they immediately felt? Sense of relief, peace. Yep. It has been nearly impossible to re-engage those people in the business. You ever had trouble getting your people going over the summer and into the fall? And that's what's going on. They finally felt peace. Well, that tells us a clue. I just got a tingle down my spine. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say. One of my dearest friends, Dan McCormick, who's a team elite with New Skin. Dan says, everyone I meet becomes a friend. Everyone I meet becomes a friend. I'm in the business of making friends. Yeah, leaders go, of course, yeah. Some of my friends really need my product, so I share it with them. Some of my friends need a business opportunity, so I present it to them. But everybody's a friend. Every great leader who sustained themselves in this business and has been stable with a company or a concept has been a maker of friends. And almost to a person, got to smile with me, almost every one of them teach their people to connect using a system. Tell me how this makes sense. They connect making friends. They teach people to connect using a system. There's got to be an easy, replicatable way to do this, right? Well, I'm about ready to tell you what it is, and I'm so excited when the company finally embraces this. It shifts their whole world. You ready? We have a system to find the prospect. That might be I go to networking meetings or I do advertisements or whatever it might be. How I find them could be very systemic. My connection with that human being is principle-based. I use principles, and I make friends. Then I have a system that backs me up to help me explain the comp plan and the products. The system cannot create connection. Because anytime an empathetic person engages in a systemic process to connect with a person, they're going to feel icky. Just know it. And they will not do it. Oh, they'll tell you they're going to do it. But you ask them at the week, how many calls did you make this week? 2. And those 2 calls paralyzed them for a day. Now you know why. Well, all you got to do is ABC. All you got to do is 1, 2, 3. Not to them. Not to them. What would happen if the new marketing plan for a company were like this? Let me show you how to find prospects. Then let me teach you how to care about people. I want to show you the steps. We call them the steps of intrinsic validation. How do you listen to someone? How do you ask questions that are empathetic? Unscripted. How do they come to the surface? I just don't have that kind of creativity, someone says. Oh, but you do. Because you are dragging behind you this giant sack. It's dragging on the ground. It's got 200 pounds of mistakes you've made in your lifetime. And what we teach them to do is to empty the sack, pick up the challenges, look at them and say, is anyone else suffering from a similar wound? You've been so focused on yourself and your fears and your doubt. The first principle of connection is to be focused on the other person. And we can focus very well when we own our own life experiences. Those things we don't want to even think about, pretend didn't happen, are in fact our greatest assets. Our greatest assets. We got great listeners in the room. How many times have you had someone say to you, I've never told anybody about this, but... And they just pour their heart out to you. Stranger at the airport, because you're a listener. You don't come with an agenda other than to make a friend. And we discover one of the greatest secrets of success in all of networking. Og said in every venture. But in this venture, here's the secret. When someone owns their life experiences and their character, all of us, our character's been forged in the furnace of adversity, has it not? We know what pain feels like. Can't take it back. But we can use it as a ready resource to better understand what someone else is experiencing. And when we use it that way, there's finally purpose in that. There's joy in this journey, and there's healing in our own soul. We become the beneficiaries, even though we're focused on another person. And we focus and we listen. If our experiences are right here, we will hear things no one else will hear. We'll ask questions that just come to the surface that no one else dare ask. This, I promise you, can be taught because it is congruent with the very foundation and fiber of 98% of the people attracted to this profession. It's been feared. I do it naturally. They seem to be awkward. Well, they are awkward because there's a lot of stuff in their sack. Let's get it out, get it in their heart, and show them how to just listen and love. They don't have to come with all the answers. They just have to become a good listener. And guess what happens when we listen? Dr. Hartman did some wonderful work on this at the University of Tennessee. He discovered that in a non-adversarial relationship, a person holds back behind their walls of resistance 40% of their cooperation. In a non-adversarial relationship. That's between a husband and wife with a good relationship, or committed companions, or business partners that like doing business together. 40%. How often do we just go in and start talking about our agenda before we step into a person's world and take down these walls? Almost everyone who's new in the business is taught to just go in there, bam, enthusiasm on ice is better than blah, we got all the sayings for it, right? It's just another reason for violating this principle. Everybody's got a wall of resistance. If we honor the wall and we care enough about this person, care enough because you can't fake this, we actually are in the business of caring about people, aren't we? We're not in the business of getting them in the business so we don't have to deal with them anymore. We're actually in the business of caring. And we actually care and listen. Down come the walls. When the walls come down, with just a few minor guidances, a person can find out everything they want to know in relationship to need of product, business, economics. People share. The world has never needed listeners more than it needs them now. Because almost everybody's dragging around their sack, holding up their facade, looking okay. And the network marketer decides to take this, put it in their heart, and show up. This person sets themselves apart from everybody on the planet. Ruth, you and I were sitting at dinner last night talking about your experiences using these principles. What we end up doing is taking the walls down of the people that we're probably most uncomfortable talking to. Another number for you, 92%. The only measurement that's consistently out of balance in their empathy and intuition, there's 6 measurements, is a measurement where they're over-focused on how someone appears. Appearance. Now, if I'm feeling really awful about myself, and most are, because remember, they have an expectation, life isn't showing up that way, and the number one self-esteem issue they tear themselves up on is ability, appearance, possessions. They're really eating themselves alive. That's how they feel about themselves. They approach someone like this gentleman. Saw you last night, and I said, that's how I want to look when I finish my body makeover. Tall, handsome, slender, I could have that kind of conversation. If I didn't have a healthy self-esteem, he'd be on my chicken list. Anybody have a chicken list? Anybody heard about chicken lists? All the people we don't want to call. Why don't we want to call them? Because it doesn't look like they need what we have. Is that true? I'm telling you, that's true. These are people who look like 9s and 10s, but how are most 9s and 10s really feeling right now? Yeah, that would, could be. Let's hope 6 or 7s at least, but 3s or 4s. But they've touched ninehood. They know what it's like, right? And if we cannot be deluded by how someone appears and care enough to step into their world and listen, those walls have never been so high but never so thin. We're inside their world, and we're finding out the truth of their circumstances. And if you've got a great product with a good company, with good leadership and a good compensation plan, your chances of having a great discussion with that person today are better than ever before. At the same time, skepticism has never been so high. So you can't throw up on them. You can't be strategic. You can't be unprofessional. You've got to be professional, which is mean we care about people and we listen. And when we do, we bring, as Ruth was sharing with me last night, she just brought in 2 amazing human beings into her business. Excuse me. Amazing human beings. These are 9s who feel like 7s or 8s, but won't take long to get back to 9. You start building an organization. When we built the 140,000, first line, second line, third line, fourth line, this is who we brought to that business. We brought the people to the business who were 9s, who were feeling like 6s or 7s, helped them find their ninehood, and guess what it created? A giant vacuum that just pulled people in. They wanted to be a part of this. If we don't do this, and we just keep begging everyone who will sign up to sign up, we're buying just nothing but nightmares. If we have people in our organization who have never worked, not only do you need to teach them product and business, you have to teach them how to work too. You don't have time to teach them how to work. You want to create an atmosphere that is so contagious, they'll come and want to work. But you can't teach them how to work. You don't have enough time. I mean, you could try. I've seen some try and wear themselves out doing so. So everybody got this piece. Empathy is such a key piece. They have high levels of empathy and intuition. They feel icky when they're being strategic. They think it's fear because that's what they're told. It never goes away. They take a break. They're out of the business. If we teach them how to honor people, use the system to find them, principles to connect, and principles for sharing the product and the business, now we've got a winning combination. Everybody have this piece?